Hi everyone, it's Taylor. Welcome back to my channel. I'm an American expat living in Malaysia and I like to share my life and travels with you. Well, today it's kind of part 2 of the video series. Last week, I hope you saw the tour of this incredible home in Penang. Today, we're having an interview with the judge from the United States who lives there and why he moved to Malaysia. Sound interesting? Stay tuned. Well, hi, I'm here with my new friend Jeff. He's agreed to be interviewed. I met him through my channel, and he decided he wanted to move to Malaysia, and here he is finally. So, Jeff, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, and what made you decide to come to Malaysia?
Well, that's a long answer, but I'll try to keep it short. I grew up in Ohio and moved to New Mexico when I was 20 to go to St. John's College. And I fell in love with Santa Fe. So my adult life has been pretty much in and around New Mexico. I worked as a lawyer and then became a judge and was judge up in Taos for 8 years. And so when I retired as a judge, I moved back to Santa Fe and I thought, well, you know, I've been here for such a long time, I'd like to try something else.
Cool. I don't think I've ever met a judge in person before, except in court.
Yeah.
Did you think about other countries or did you just zero in on Malaysia?
Well, I wanted to be somewhere else before. I like to travel. And so I wanted to travel in more in Southeast Asia than any other area that I've just kind of been curious about and like. I've had the opportunity to travel before in China and Thailand and a few other Southeast Asian countries. So my thought was if I was based somewhere in Southeast Asia, then it would be easier for me to do my travels. And my timing was that I wanted to do it before I got too old and unable to do that. So I did really not look at other countries. I had a friend who had been to Malaysia a good bit as an adult, and he suggested it. So my friend and I traveled about a year ago when we first met you. Took a car and drove from Singapore and drove all around to
that's neat.
Major cities of Malaysia, and that's when I felt like Penang would be the place for me to be.
Yeah, well, I suspected you'd like Penang. You said you'd been to Southeast Asia before, but had you been to Malaysia before?
I hadn't. I hadn't been to Singapore or Malaysia, so I was very impressed when I did my first drive-through a year ago. And so then I went home and started thinking about it, you know, about how I could make it work. And so in September this past year, came back to Penang, and so I got an agent, a real estate agent, to show me a number of places that were available for rent. Ultimately, narrowed it down to 2 or 3 houses that I really liked, and went to Langkawi to think about it for 3 or 4 days, and then I came back and did the final tour. And so in late September, focused on the house that I'm in now. Cool.
Well, it's a fabulous house. I've done a tour of the house that is probably last week's video, but I never know how I'm going to order them. So you'll look for it, but I'll put the link in the comments below. It seems like you immediately thought that Penang was a better fit for you than KL. Why was that?
Well, I've never been a big city person. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. Santa Fe, I liked Santa Fe because it was, when I first moved there, it was only 30,000 people. So I've always been to smaller communities. KL just, to me, seemed like it was just much too big of a city. I think I felt like I would get lost there. And I like a sense of community. I like the fact that there's an easy access to the expat community here. And meeting local people has been easy as I've been getting myself settled. And so I just think that it's better. And I like nature, I like hiking, I like trails, and those are more accessible here.
Oh, absolutely.
Than they would be in KL. So that's, I guess, the main reasons.
Yeah, well, you might see me back in Penang someday, who knows. I know that initially when you were shopping for a place here that you were thinking about buying. What made you change your mind about that?
Couple things. One is you probably at some point will have met my dog Kelly. At the time back in January of 2023 when we were looking, we had 2 German Shepherds. Unfortunately, one passed away this year, so we only have one now. But people convinced me that it was not possible to have a dog, especially German Shepherds. They're a restricted breed, and they were hard. It was a lot harder to get Kelly into the country. And one of the requirements was that you had to be in basically a landed property that had a yard and had a wall and a gate that would keep the dog in safely and have enough room for the dog. So it just kind of became clear. We were looking at condominiums and we saw one we wanted to buy, but we decided that it would be better to be in a landed property. Another reason is that, you know, Penang and Malaysia's right now kind of overbuilt. So if you buy, it's not going, at least in Penang, I don't feel like it's going to be escalating in value much. So people,
right, but it also gives you a chance to wait and look around. It's not like prices are shooting up right now.
That's right, yeah. So we'll, so my thinking is I'll be here for, you know, I have a 2-year lease on this house, which I can cancel after a year if I decide that this isn't the right place for me. But so that gives me options. And it allows me to consider where I want to be in the long term.
So it sounds like Kelly sort of made the decision for you to pick a landed property. Yeah. It is difficult with pets in Malaysia in condominiums. A lot of them do allow it, but some, I mean, if you have a dog, their feet can't touch the public areas, and you have to carry them off of the property, which is really, you couldn't do that.
Kelly's 100 pounds.
100 pounds, yeah.
Yeah. Put her in a big baby carriage, maybe. But
a huge one. So we thought we would talk a bit about the process of bringing your dog to Malaysia. This is Kelly. She's a big girl, and beautiful too, aren't you, girl? And sweet as can be. So what was that process like, Jeff?
Yeah, you know, it's always scary to think about putting a dog on a plane. Initially, our hope was that we could get on a flight and have her, you know, she couldn't be on the same plane in cargo, so that we would know that she was with us and that she'd arrived. But we were flying China Airlines, and that wasn't possible. They didn't have the arrangements on the planes that we were going to take, and the other flights we wanted to take was going to be way too expensive. And so we ended up getting an agent in Los Angeles, and so that helped because he was able to convince us. First they said we had to go the other way around the world through Amsterdam and then to Singapore and then into Penang. But
well, that seems ridiculous.
Yeah, and it would have been very expensive and very hard on the dog because it's 2 very long trips. So we found an agent who was able to get us on Singapore Airlines and went from Los Angeles to Singapore, Singapore to KL.
Only the best for Kelly.
Yeah, and then we had an agent here that we hired in Penang. And so he had the dog driven up from KL, and she did quarantine. She had to do a 7-day quarantine, but did that here in Penang. So we were able to go visit her during the middle of quarantine. So I was worried about her because she wouldn't have known what's going on. But it all worked out very well. We really liked our agents in LA and Penang. We had to drive her from Santa Fe to Los Angeles to be able to get on the plane. So that was we had to rent a van, and that was kind of a bit of a process. And getting the documents, because she was a restricted breed, we had to get permission to even apply to bring her in. So we had to have the house inspected. We had to find the house, get the lease.
Oh, wow.
Have the house inspected, and then get the documents through MAKIS is the acronym for the agency here in Malaysia. And that took 6 to 8 weeks. And so we were just worried that we'd planned to come in December, and I was afraid that we wouldn't get the documents in time. But they finally did go through, and we had to get documents from the United States, and that wasn't approved until just the week before we left. So I guess I would say to anybody,
kind of stressful.
Yeah, I'd say to anybody, no matter what size of dog, it's going to be expensive, and it also is a very stressful process. Yes. But there's a number of online videos that you can watch about people who have done the process.
Yeah, I've done another one too.
And so it's been worth it to us to have the dog here. And
well, of course, she's part of the family.
Exactly.
Well, that's great. I'm so glad to hear that it worked out for you and Kelly. Did you find the house hunting process frustrating or pretty easy?
It was fairly easy. Because we were initially looking to buy, we had met with a realtor, and then his company also does leasing, helps people find places to rent. So we just kind of got handed off to another part of his company, and then as part of the process of finding a place, the realtor was really good at helping us get settled in. So
that's nice.
It was part of her duties was to help us get settled, and things have worked out well.
Probably in higher end properties you get better service from the realtors.
Yeah.
I didn't get much service from mine. So for those of you who've seen the tour of this house, you realize it's a huge house, 5,000 square feet. Why did you feel like you needed such a big house, Jeff?
Well, I traditionally have had a big house. I like to be hospitable. I like to host people.
Yes, I'm here as a guest.
When I was in Santa Fe, it's a popular destination, and so I had several guest bedrooms in Santa Fe, and I had friends come visit. We've been here only a little over a month, and we've already had at Christmas, we had some of our good friends come from San Francisco. One guy brought his mother, and so there was plenty of bedrooms. You happened to be here when they were here. So we've used all 3 of the guest bedrooms on the second floor already, just in the first month. And we have family in Hong Kong, and so they're coming for Chinese New Year. And there'll be 4 of them. It'll take 3 bedrooms. So it just makes it easier, and you can welcome people to come. And
well, you can shut rooms off too and not air condition the whole house. I felt like it was sort of like a boutique hotel when I was staying here last time. The hallway on the what I call the second floor, they call it first floor here. It's just when you get off the elevator and look down the hall, it's just like being in a little hotel. It's really cool.
Well, and we skip that floor when we go up the elevator to the top floor where the bedroom is, and my office is up there. So I really live on the top floor and the bottom floor. So you're right, we sort of don't air condition it and ignore it when we're not having guests, which is
the
majority of the time.
So what are your impressions of Penang so far?
Well, it's been really fun. When I first got here, I would feel like every day it was an adventure. It was like first I'd have to learn how to drive on the wrong side of the road.
Yes.
I had to get the parking app so I could find parking, and then finding parking is a whole other adventure.
Yes.
And just getting to know the roads was an adventure, and doing things like getting utilities set up, finding the malls, finding things you need to buy for the house. We actually, one of our first days, we took a drive to IKEA, which is across the bridge.
That's pretty far.
So every day is an adventure, and it's still that way. I'm getting more kind of into being just at home and having quiet days where we don't always do stuff. But it's still nice to have that challenge. Finding new restaurants,
Well, that's always fun, finding new restaurants, but you've got several you can just walk to here. That's one of the beauties of where you live.
Yeah, we really like it. Given the fact that I can walk from my house down to the seawall, it's only 4 or 5 doors down, and then you walk along and it's about 1 kilometer to the Straits Key, and there's I think a dozen restaurants around Straits Key, and each one has different kinds of food. So it's almost like every night I get to go to wherever my desire is that evening, and I can get beer, cocktails, and I can take Kelly and walk Kelly to Straits Key, and they're really good because all the restaurants have patios outside, so I can take Kelly and she can sit under the table. And
it does seem like the perfect location for a dog here. Do you think this is a permanent move, or is anything permanent? How long do you think you're going to stay in Malaysia?
I'm looking at a 5 to 10 year window. We haven't talked about MM2H, and we can talk about that if you want, but I'm looking to stay long term. I'm on a tourist visa right now, so if I don't get approval for my visa, then I would have to go back by March. But I haven't sold my Santa Fe house yet. My thinking was, let me get here and get settled. It was a risk bringing the dog because you don't want to be going back and forth. It's too hard to do that. But under the assumption that this is pretty much a permanent move. Then brought the dog, hoping I get the approval for the visa, and then I'll go back to Santa Fe, sell the house there, and be able to be here. I've continued to do, after I retired as a judge in 2019, I've continued to do work as a mediator and arbitrator, settlement facilitator. So I've been mostly doing that in Santa Fe by Zoom or or phone or whatever, sometimes in person, but mostly not. And so I can continue to do my work here in Penang. I set up an office with my computer and my, I have Wi-Fi here. The connections are great. It's just like in fact, I have to get up and sometimes do them at 11 o'clock at night because that's 9 a.m.
or later.
Mountain time, yeah. And so I've had sessions where I've done a mediation that went all night from 11 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning. And I've never told the people that I wasn't in their time zone because they don't know where I am.
I don't know, right.
And
well, that's the beauty of the world today. You can practically live anywhere and still do your work.
Yeah, and I don't know how much longer I'll do that. I've done it 4 years since I've retired. I'm in my 5th year of doing it. I think kind of maybe 5 years will be enough to do that extra work. And so I'm hoping that I can do more traveling, and that would probably lessen the amount of arbitrations.
Or you could start a YouTube channel about the law.
Yeah, well, that would be pretty boring for most people, I think.
I don't know. There's someone I watched that I think is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's talked about how I could write a book from my judge experiences. I was a prosecutor before that for 10 years, so between my work as a prosecutor and my work as a judge, I feel like I could probably write a book about that.
Well, that would keep you busy, too. Yeah. Write a book, yeah. So, okay, you mentioned MM2H. Why don't we talk a little bit about that? I was sort of shocked that you were willing to go along with the current rules that they have in place, and now they look like they're going to be changing, and I'm not sure how that's going to affect you, but you decided to just go ahead with it. What's the process been like?
Well, we've got a really good agent that has helped us. We're looking at possibly doing the Sarawak version of MM2H, which would have been the requirements more like what you had to meet. But at that time, the wait list was almost a year. And we would have had to go to Sarawak to finalize it. We would have had to spend 30 days or 90 days, whatever the requirements were at the time, in Borneo, which we don't mind. I don't mind being in Borneo, but I didn't really want to be tied to that. So at the time, the MM2H Peninsular Malaysia was only taking 3 to 4 months. But it took us a couple months to get our paperwork together, submitted it at the end of May. We were told then maybe 3 to 5 months to get it approved. It's now been 7, almost 8 months. But in the meantime...
Well, that's probably because they moved it from immigration back to the tourism offices.
Right. So the delay has just been kind of aggravating because it's been hard for us to make plans, such as do we bring the dog or not, or But it's been not that hard of a process, and because I'm fortunate enough to have had the money in the bank that I needed to meet the requirements, I had the pension and Social Security income and the income from my side job, so I had sufficient monthly income. So I was lucky enough to have been able to meet those requirements, even though they were pretty stringent. And so I was willing to put deposit money in the bank, to be able to keep the 5-year or 10-year visa. It wasn't that hard to get. I guess the hardest part was I had to get a new passport because I was getting down to like a year left.
Right, I did that too.
So I got a new passport. That took some time, and then I got all the documents together. I'm hoping, any day now. If you're out there, folks at the what is it now?
Tourism Department.
The Tourism Department. I know you just got a lot of files dumped on you, but I'm hoping you can
get it done for Jeff.
Find mine, yeah. And I'm looking forward to getting that. And if I have it before I have to leave in March, then it would make it more clear as to what I have to do when I get back to Santa Fe.
Yes. Well, one of the most exciting and fun parts of my channel is meeting new people like you. And I met you in KL, we had dinner, and then we became friends. And that's just a wonderful thing. And you've invited me into your home. I'm my second time staying here. It's just great. So I just want to thank you so much for taking the time today to talk to everybody, let them know your experience of Malaysia and getting here. It's really exciting. Thank you, Jeff.
Well, you're welcome, and I want to thank you for your videos. I mean, I think, I'd already focused on Malaysia a bit, and having watched your videos kind of reinforced that. And,
thank you.
And then meeting you and then having you visit here with us, it's helped us find places to go and restaurants. We just went last night to a restaurant that you recommended.
Yes.
And so it's been good to have a connection.
Thank you so much. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that interview. It's just really, really nice the way I've met new people here through my channel. And speaking of people, there's Eric, who's in Sarawak now, picking up his Sarawak MM2H. So I'm excited to see him. He's coming to Penang, too. So that's all I have for today, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.